You're listening to Keith Sports News. Hey, welcome to a special edition of KSN because it's the day after Labor Day Monday. I decided to wait until Tuesday to do this episode, and I'm sure a lot of sports podcasts are doing the same. Okay? Or if they have a sports podcast on Labor Day Monday, the main host would probably be absent because it's a holiday. Yeah, just like, for a lot of people. So yes, welcome to KSN episode 68 that on a Tuesday, Labor Day weekend has concluded, and it was a big weekend in sports. So much happened. The last episode was 2 hours, and I didn't thought it would be that long. There was just so much to talk about, and there is a lot to talk about after Labor Day weekend, but this episode won't be 2 hours. It won't be as long. I don't want it to be 2 hours because if that was the case, I wouldn't have much time left before I need to go to sleep. Okay? So, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes, I'm in this room because I wanted to be in this room. The shirt that I'm wearing, yes, CFL, because there were some games on Labor Day Monday. I'll talk about that a little later. Labor Day weekend is big football weekend. Also had the United States Open Tennis tournament. I'll get into that later as well. But first, we must start with the legend Lee Corso. Yes. I posted a short. I made a short KSN update. Yes, I'll do some KSN update shorts from time to time. Okay? Because, you can do 3-minute shorts. And I think those KSN update shorts are working out. Because some of them got quite a bit of views, which is a good thing. So, yeah. Lee Corso. I did a KSN update short, me talking about him. How I, hit the microphone. When I got into the show and all that stuff, I'm going to talk more about that, break it more down into details. So yes, if you're a College GameDay fan or college football fan, then you had to watch GameDay. You had to watch the final College GameDay appearance from the legend himself, Lee Corso. And I watched that show. I watched a full show live. Yeah, I had to watch it live. Because it was his last appearance, obviously. Yeah. Where do I start with this? First of all, let's talk about how I got into that show. When I got into that show. So I started watching sports in 2013. So it was probably 2013 when I first started watching that show. But I didn't watch it every week like I did years later, okay? Like the second half of the 2010s, okay? I would watch it almost every week. And yeah, I think I remember watching Chris Fowler's final year as the host in 2014. And then 2015, that was when Reese Davis replaced him. And I like Reese Davis. He's great. And of course, Chris Fowler, that was when he stepped down as the College GameDay host. He became the full-time permanent Saturday night primetime ABC commentator. Yeah. And Kirk Herbstreit, who does both Game Day and the primetime game. It's crazy. Yeah. Chris Fowler is to me, he's like the MVP of ESPN because he's the voice of college football and he's also the voice of tennis on ESPN. Also, yeah, college football week 1, Labor Day weekend. The United States Open tennis tournament was also happening, and he was doing both. He does both. He was in New York. Chris Fowler was in New York. Then he would fly to call the game, the Saturday night game, and then he would fly back to New York. I know, right? Crazy. And for Kirk Herbstreit, I say he's the MVP for football announcing, football commentator. Not only he's on game day on Saturday mornings, sometimes he has to fly after the show to go to that Saturday night game. And he's also a commentator for Thursday night NFL on Amazon Prime with the great Al Michaels. Like, that is crazy. Like, he does a lot of traveling. He does a lot of flying. Yeah. But yeah, I like them. They're the best. And, yeah. I remember watching Game Day back then, man. And I really enjoyed it. Of course, pretty much everyone's favorite is the end of the show when he puts on the headgear. That became a tradition. The first headgear was 1996 when he put on Brutus, the Ohio State headgear. And his last appearance, he also puts on the Ohio State Brutus headgear. Yep, in Columbus, Ohio. What a great way to say goodbye and end your legendary career. Yeah, amazing. I will say this though, recent years, I don't watch Game Day as much as I used to. I guess I'll say why. It's mainly because of, you guys might think I'm crazy for saying this. It's because I'm not a fan of Pat McAfee. I find him obnoxious. I prefer him in the WWE than on ESPN Game Day. I don't know, I just never really liked him much. I know he has his own show, and somehow his show became number one. Number one sports talk show is really the Pat McAfee show because somehow he can get any guest he wants. This man, he became super rich and he became viral. Yeah, a lot of people like him, but I'm not a fan of the guy. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of the guy. I don't listen to his show. That's just me. Listen, you can't please everybody. I understand, But when they brought him in game day, I was like, wait, this guy's permanently on the show? See, when I started watching it in the mid to late the mid to late 2010s, he wasn't on it. He wasn't on the show. I liked it back then. When he wasn't on the show. Now, older fans, I think a lot of older fans will agree with me. And I also saw a lot of old clips from game day, like the 2000s. And I was watching some old clips, and I was like, when Chris Fowler was the host, I thought to myself, man, I think this show was a lot better back then. Not necessarily because of Lee Corso's younger age, but it just felt right. It just felt more entertaining to me. It's like a different era. Even though, yeah, you had Lee Corso and Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler. I don't know. It just the presentation was different. I liked it like that. The SEC on ABC, I really like their presentation because it kind of gives that throwback vibe, the SEC on ABC theme music, it kind of sounds like a throwback version of college football on ABC, and it just felt right. That's why I mainly watch SEC games on ABC. All right, because they're the best in my opinion. And plus, I'm from the Southeast. It's in the Southeast Conference, the best conference, the toughest conference in my opinion. And, I live in LSU City. They're in the SEC, so yeah. But Pat McAfee is one of the reasons why I don't watch game day much anymore. So instead, listen, now back in the old days, game day was like the only morning show, okay? Because that show's been around the longest. In the recent years, or maybe like for the past 10 years, they would have a Fox morning show, big noon kickoff, pregame show, and the SEC network would have a show called SEC Nation. All right? So you have other shows to watch, okay? So I got into SEC Nation. I got into that. I started watching that, I don't remember, it might have been 2019, but I kind of permanently watched it since 2022, the same year Pat McAfee joined Game Day on ESPN. And I really like SEC Nation. I like all the people on there because no one is obnoxious on there. No one is talking so loud, running their mouth like constantly. Listen, I know it sounds like I'm being mean to Pat McAfee. I don't hate the guy. I'm just not a fan of him in general. But their show is more like the relaxed version. But their show is similar because they're on the road, and they would have a big crowd behind them as well. You got the host Laura Rutledge, Tim Tebow, who won the Heisman when he was playing for Florida, one of the best college quarterbacks of all time. You got Jordan Rodgers, the younger brother of Aaron Rodgers. Roman Harper, who was a player with the New Orleans Saints, and he won the Super Bowl with the Saints because they showed a graphic. They would show a graphic on these former players. And of course, Paul Feinbaum, the mouth of the South. My favorite, one of my favorite sports podcasts hosts. Yes, the Paul Feinbaum Show is probably the best college football podcast to listen to. Although he mainly talks about the SEC because, he's on an SEC show on the SEC network. All right. So I got into that show as well, man. I got into that show. Yeah, his show is on SEC Nation from 2 to 6 p.m. Central, weekdays, Monday to Friday. But you don't have to watch it on TV. You can listen to it on radio, on the ESPN app, Sirius XM, wherever you get your podcasts. And, he was on the air. The Paul Feinbaum Show was on the air on Labor Day Monday. I didn't listen to it live because I was watching tennis in the CFL, but I was able to watch or listen to it as an archive on the app. So that's what I did before I went live, before I started this recording. All right. But yeah, pretty much ever since Pat McAfee joined GameDay, I permanently switched to SEC Nation. But I had to watch GameDay on this past Saturday, Lee Corso's final show. And I gotta say, Pat McAfee was not annoying. He wasn't obnoxious on that episode. I think he knew not to talk as much because this show, or the last episode was really about Lee Corso. Of course, you're honoring the guy, the legend, who's been doing it for a long time, They're probably going to do the same thing to John Cena in the WWE. His final appearance, he's going to retire at the end of this year. So his final appearance will probably be a celebration. I mentioned that because I was listening to some of Busted Open, the best wrestling podcast, and they were talking about how should John Cena's last appearance be, stuff like that. So, John Cena's a legend too. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed College GameDay, the final episode, and I'm glad they brought in Chris Fowler for a segment. And I'm also glad that Pat McAfee was not in that segment. It was Reese Davis, and then you got the original three guys, Chris Fowler, Lee Corso, and Kirk Herbstreit, because for many years it was just those three guys. And then Desmond Howard joined, and then Reese Davis took over as the host, and then in recent years Pat McAfee joined, Nick Saban joined. I like Nick Saban, but part of me wished that Pat McAfee wasn't on the show. I think he can do his own version of GameDay. I think he could, well, I don't know, maybe not, because GameDay's been around forever. But, yeah, I enjoyed it. I guess that's going to be my last time watching the show. When it comes to watching the full show, I might watch some clips of the future episodes on YouTube. That's what's great about YouTube. YouTube didn't exist in the 90s, so you had to watch it live. Although the show was a lot better back then, in my opinion. But this was most likely this is my last time watching GameDay. In terms of watching majority of the show, or at least half of the show. Because now that Lee Corso's retired, we're not going to get the headgear picks anymore. You know what? I found a video where Pat McAfee was like the celebrity guest picker back in 2019. And I was scrolling in the comments, and people are saying that Pat McAfee should replace Lee Corso in terms of him putting on the headgear. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Why him? Just because you like him so much? Just because he brings the energy? I hope that doesn't happen. I hope Pat McAfee doesn't take over Lee Corso's spot. I don't want to see that. If anyone should do it, it has to be Lee Corso's best friend, Kirk Herbstreit. Because Kirk's been doing the show. He's been on that show since 1996, for Pete's sake. You know? If anyone should do it, it's got to be Kirk. Kirk is Lee Corso's best friend. Okay? So, I don't want to see Pat McAfee do it. Like, bro, like sometimes he like stands on the desk. Like, what are you doing? When I saw him did that, I'm like, bro, what are you doing, bro? What the heck? You're standing on the desk. What the heck? I didn't find that funny. I'm like, what? I was like, what the heck is this guy doing? I mean, I get it. He wants to have a fun time, but like, you don't see the other guys act like that. That's my problem with McAfee, is because he's not like the others. SEC Nation, none of those people are like that. They don't act like that. But hey, it is what it is, man. I'm not trying to be mean or anything. This is me. This is how I feel. I'm just giving you my thoughts. I prefer Pat McAfee on GameDay, or excuse me, on WWE. Because WWE, you have to put on a character, you know? That's what they do. But it seems like he's doing the same thing when he's on GameDay. Like, listen, I'm sure he's a very nice guy. If I ever meet him, I'll shake his hand. What if I tell him straight up, I never liked you on television? What would he say? But this is about Lee Corso. Sorry if I got kind of carried away. But they did a great job. ESPN did a great job by honoring Lee Corso, who turned 90 years old. Yeah. He was like late 70s, 80 years old when I first started watching that show. A lot of people grew up watching that show, man. So we have to thank him. Thank you, Coach Corso. Yeah. It's sad at the same time that he's officially done, man. And I know for those of you that watched the show for the past couple of years, the recent years, you can tell that Lee Corso's speech is kind of, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to understand what he's saying, but that's normal. When you get to 90 years old, I think that's normal, That's what happens, man. That's what happens. Yeah. And I want to give credit to Fox. Fox actually showed Lee Corso's final headgear pick on their network. And I didn't know that until after I read comments. Because, obviously I wasn't watching the Fox kickoff show, even though the game that they were at, Columbus, Ohio, between Texas and Ohio State, that game was on Fox. I didn't thought they would do that. So, after game day ended, I switched to Fox, So, yeah, they actually showed it. They actually showed his headgear pick, so that's great. First and final headgear pick was in Columbus, Ohio. Brutus. Yeah, 431 headgear picks. Think about that. That is a lot. It's crazy, man. Crazy. So yeah, the show won't be the same for me. now that he's retired. So, but I mean, I might watch some clips, and then I'll probably get annoyed by McAfee. So, it is what it is. I think I saw a few clips from the Fox Big Noon Kickoff show, and I kind of like that show. I kind of like that one. They got Reggie Bush on there, who got his Heisman Trophy back from USC, won the Super Bowl with the Saints. Got Coach Urban Meyer, the former Ohio State coach. I always liked him. So, yeah, whenever the next big noon Fox game is, to me, then I might watch the Big Noon Kickoff if I wake up early enough. If not, it's mainly going to be SEC Nation. So, yeah. And one last thing before I move on. Lee Corso, his final appearance, you know how the last 10 minutes of the show they make their picks, their predictions for the games? He got a lot of games correct. Mainly the big ones. Yes, and I'll talk about those games individually. His two big correction picks are the Texas-Ohio State game and the Florida State-Alabama game. Okay? He picked Ohio State to win, and Ohio State won. I'm glad Ohio State won, mainly because it was Lee Corso's final headgear pick. I wanted his last headgear pick to be correct. His first headgear pick was correct with Ohio State, and his last headgear pick was also correct with Ohio State. But his big pick, the other game, he picked Florida State to beat Alabama. He did. And all the other guys, they picked Alabama to win. Wow. What a way. What a way to end your legendary career, man. It's awesome. There will never be another guy, another nice man like Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend, with his pencil in his hand. That's his signature. By the way, there wasn't a celebrity guest pick. I think it's because it was Lee Corso's final show. Yeah. All right. I think that's it. Oh, there's a video on ESPN, like a compilation video of Lee Corso's headgear picks. I was kind of watching some of that. I didn't see all of it, but I might watch more of that. Yeah, man. So, all right. Now I'm going to talk about the games that I watched, okay? The games that I watched. I like to talk about the UFL games, the CFL games, because there's not many UFL and CFL games. There's a bunch of college games. When NFL season starts, obviously I'm not going to talk about every single game, but I might look at the scores, and tell you which games that I watched, just like college football. Mainly the big matchups, the top 25 teams, ranked teams, even though the rankings don't mean much now. But yeah, let's talk about the biggest matchup of week one, which was Texas versus Ohio State. What a way to kick off week one. Seriously, the biggest game of the year, or at least the regular season, was the first game in week one. A rematch from the semifinals. Or was it the semifinals? Yeah, I think it was. I think that was, they played each other in the semifinals in the Cotton Bowl. The game to go into the national championship game. So, but it's a different team now because players are getting paid. See, listen, I still like watching college football. It's still entertaining, but at the same time, it's kind of weird how it is now. And I understand why the players are getting paid. But back when I watched it, when I first watched it and got really into it, it wasn't like that. Players weren't getting paid. But at least the game itself, it's kind of the same. Unlike the Major League Baseball, it's not the same MLB that I remember from 10 years ago. There was no pitch clock back then. There was no ghost runner rule back then. They didn't have all these interleague games. You know what I'm saying? So, at least the game itself, the college football game itself, is pretty much the same. So, yeah. Somehow, Texas came in as the number one team. And I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all. Ohio State won the national championship game. In my opinion, when you win the national championship game, you should be the number one team entering the next season. Even if people don't have high expectations for your team, your program. Well, when I look at it like this, when you win a championship, that means you're the best team. That's how it works. Hello? Ohio State was clearly the best team coming out of that college football playoff. They were all dominating wins, too. How are they not the number one team entering week one? I don't understand that. That makes zero sense, in my opinion. Even though the rankings don't mean much, but in my opinion, when you win the national championship, the next season, you should start off as the number one team. And I think the runner-up, which would have been Notre Dame, they should start off as the number two team in the country. So, anyways, this game on Fox, big noon kickoff. The great Gus Johnson, in my opinion, the best non-ESPN football announcer. I've always liked Gus Johnson. Yes. He's got those big glasses. And his partner's Joel Klatt. And Joel Klatt is also a UFL announcer, commentator. So, I saw the game. I watched the game. What I don't like is their score bug. Their score bug looks weird. Like, it's like a weird looking score bug in my opinion. Like, I think they debuted that 2 years ago. Why is the score bug look like a drawing? Why does it look like someone drew that score bug and the logos are stamped onto the score bug? The team logos. And why do the team logos, they look like they're hanging off of the score bug? Like, what the heck is that? I almost rather have no logos like that. Why does the score bug look like that? And I know you guys are going to say, what's the point? A score bug it says the teams and the score and all that. And I get it, but hey, people were criticizing the new NFL on Fox score bug. Not just me. A lot of people were. Some people say it was a distraction. That means the previous one is so much better. And they were still using the previous Fox football score bug for the UFL. That's a perfect score bug in my opinion. That's one of the best score bugs, I think, for Fox football. And then we went from that scorebug to this new NFL on Fox scorebug and this current college football scorebug. It doesn't look right. So that's my only problem with college football on Fox is their graphics look weird, their scorebug looks weird. Their previous one looked so much better. As a matter of fact, all of the previous ones look so much better. This is the worst. It is what it is. Unlike ESPN's new graphics, yeah, their new graphics and scorebug look so much better than Fox's. So, anyways, the game itself, I didn't make any predictions. For those of you that somehow listen to that 2-hour episode of KSN, I didn't make any predictions because I didn't know what to expect. I might make predictions for week 2. I might. But I knew this game would be close. But I wanted Ohio State to win, not only because they're the defending national champions, but it was also Lee Corso's final headgear pick. But at the same time, Texas starting quarterback Arch Manning, the grandson of Archie Manning. Yes, he was the backup for the past 2 seasons behind Quinn Ewers. Now Quinn Ewers is the backup quarterback for the NFL's Miami Dolphins. So now that Arch is the starter quarterback, I wish him well. And he's like the highest paid college quarterback. It's crazy. And he's like in a commercial. I remember like one of the commercials, he was in that commercial. I forgot what commercial it was, but he was in it. I'm like, geez, they're paying this guy so much money to be on this commercial? Jeez. I don't know if this is going to be his last season before he gets drafted in the NFL next year, or he might play a second season next year. I don't know. But I wish him well. I wish him well because he's a Manning. The Manning family is big football history, you know? So, yeah. Yeah. What a tough game for Texas. It's kind of not fair for them. This game was not at a neutral field. It was at Columbus, Ohio. So it's kind of not fair for Texas. Arch Manning's first game as a starting quarterback. He has to go to Columbus, Ohio. But I knew the game would be close. It was low scoring. It was a defensive matchup. And I don't mind low scoring games. Because in college football, a lot of games are high scoring anyways. So you don't really see low scoring games on that much. But whenever you do, to me, it's like, ooh, this is interesting. Will a team finally get some points on the board, you know? Yeah. So, not much scoring. Ohio State got a touchdown, I believe, before halftime to make it 7-0. And here's the thing. I remember watching the beginning of the game. I forget which team got the ball first, but both teams, on their opening drive, they went for it on 4th down, and both teams didn't convert the 4th down. Yeah, somehow they didn't get it. They didn't get the 4th down. So, turnover on downs, you know. And at one point, Texas had the ball, right? Or no, excuse me. Ohio State had the ball, and a Texas player grabbed an Ohio State player's face mask, and he ripped his helmet off. And that's a 15-yard penalty. And that gave Ohio State the 1st down. And they got closer to the end zone. And then they scored a touchdown. Like, what if that penalty never happened? That means Ohio State would have... I think they would have kicked a field goal or something like that. See, or... Stupid penalties can cost you the game. This game could have been tied. This game could have been tied at the end of regulation, but no. Ohio State got another no score in the third quarter. Ohio State got another touchdown in the fourth quarter. Then Texas got a touchdown with about 3.5 minutes left, and that was pretty much it after that. Yeah, Arch Manning didn't have a good game, but hey, it was it's the first game. Texas' toughest game was their first game, so take it easy on Arch, okay? It's his first game as a starting quarterback. Take it easy on him. All right. Okay. So, but again, Texas shouldn't be number one anyways. It should have been Ohio State. Now, today, I assume the AP poll, the new AP poll week 2 will come out, and I expect Ohio State to be number one, the real number one team. Okay. Who knows? They might have a rematch in the playoff, or perhaps the national championship game. Like, what if Texas wins the rest of their games? Yeah. So, the second game I watched was the Alabama-Florida State game on ABC. And the announcers were Joe Tessitore and Jesse Palmer. Joe Tessitore is also an MVP because Friday night, the night before, he was he on SmackDown? I don't remember because I don't watch today's WWE much, but he is also the Friday night SmackDown announcer, so I don't know if he was on SmackDown on Friday night, the night before the game, but if he was, oh my gosh, I don't know what city they were in. But because he would do the same thing with the UFL. He's also a UFL announcer. So I watched this game, Alabama and Florida State, because to me that's like the biggest 2:30 p.m. game Central Time, and it was on ABC, and he was the announcer along with Jesse Palmer. This game, 90% picked Alabama to win. Alabama was a 14.5-point favorite. So I watched this game, and at one point it was raining. The game was in Tallahassee. Alabama scored a touchdown first, okay? And then Florida State scored 24 unanswered points. Yeah. And pretty much the rest is Florida State. Alabama got some points after that, but it wasn't enough. Florida State got revenge against the team that got into I guess it's called the 2023 or the 2024 college football playoff, okay? Without Florida State. The final playoff with 4 teams instead of 12. Yes, that was the final year of the 4-team playoff format where Alabama got in over Florida State. Even though those were different rosters back then, different teams. But I'm just saying, if you're a Florida State fan, you must be so happy right now. You beat the team that got in the playoff instead of your team, your favorite team. You should be really happy. And last year, Florida State only won 2 games the season after they got screwed out of the playoff. They only won 2 games. And this season, their first game, they beat Alabama by 14 points. That's amazing. I wasn't expecting that. Alabama was a 13 and a half point favorite. I think I said 14 and a half point favorite. 13 and a half point favorite, basically by 2 touchdowns. Instead, Florida State won by 2 touchdowns. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But here's the thing. No more Nick Saban. People got to realize Nick Saban is long gone from coaching. Okay? You know, I saw a comment. I would see whenever Alabama loses, people say, it's always a great day in America when Bama loses. And that's what I put. I actually commented on that highlight video on ESPN's College Football's YouTube channel. That's what I put. I said, they say it's a great day in America when Bama loses. Yeah. But now when Bama loses, it's not as special because there's no more Nick Saban. Listen, I'm not saying Alabama's going to be a bad team this year, but they're probably not going to be as great as Saban's final year, which was the 2023 season. Yeah. It is what it is, man. I mean, I know this is what happens when a program gets dominant for over 10 years, and then when it's finally kind of dying out, when that coach leaves, and when you realize they're not going to be as great without him, some of the fans, they're spoiled. They're spoiled. It's like their dynasty came to an end, you know? It's like when a dynasty comes to an end, the fans are spoiled. I get it. It seems like a team can be great for a long time, but you can't be great forever. You know what I'm saying? Listen, there's a lot of Bama haters out there because they're sick of Bama winning so much, so they're obviously happy, and they're probably not Florida State fans. Let me tell you something. Yeah, 10 years ago, I got sick of Bama because they were the dominant team. They kept winning every year. They kept winning a bunch of games, and yeah, I got kind of sick of that. I got kind of sick of them. Just like the New England Patriots in the NFL. Coach Nick Saban and Coach Bill Belichick. Oh boy, yes, you know I got something to say about Bill Belichick on that Monday night game. I'll talk about that later. Yeah. And this is a new era. Players are getting paid. Nick Saban doesn't want to be part of that anymore. He doesn't. I don't blame him because he's old school. He's old school. I don't blame him. But I'm glad to see him enjoying himself on game day. Yeah, I remember when he's not in the national championship game, he would be on game day as a special guest. Now he's on game day permanently, so that's great for him. So I listened to the Paul Feinbaum show. I had to listen to the Feinbaum show mainly because of that game, Alabama's loss, and a lot of Paul Feinbaum's callers are from Alabama. They're Alabama fans, and a lot of times certain people call into the show almost every day. So if you listen to the show a bunch of times like me, then you get to know these callers that call in on a weekly basis. You know, what does this guy have to say? He's going to be pissed off from Alabama. Oh, this Auburn fan's happy because Auburn won and Bama lost. the big rival, So it's funny. I think it's really funny to listen to. I only listen to that show during the season, so during the off season, I don't listen to it much. I'm like that with other sports as well. Baseball tonight with Buster Olney. I mainly listen to that during the season, but during the off season, I don't listen to that because I don't really care much about the off season. Because during the off season of a certain league, I'll watch a different league. You know, so that's how that works. Um, yeah, they posted a video, ESPN's College Football's YouTube channel. I'll try to put the link in the description if you guys are interested in checking that out. A lot of callers called in to give their thoughts on the Alabama's loss, and the first caller is a well-known caller if you listen to that show. His name is Legend, and whenever Bama loses, it's always interesting to hear what Legend has to say, because he's a Bama fan, and he gets upset, and he talks like he's cutting a promo in the WWE. It's so funny. He's got that southern accent, got that southern voice. Yeah. So, Alabama's first loss. They say this was Alabama's first loss since 2001, I believe. Holy crap. I was a baby in 2001. That's how great Bama's been ever since, pretty much. Because listen, when Saban was the coach, a lot of Alabama's first games, sometimes it's a big game, and they would usually win that game. I remember back in, this might have been 2015 or 2016, Alabama's first game was against USC in a neutral field in Dallas, Texas, AT&T Stadium. And this was back when USC was a really good team. And Alabama crushed USC. I was like, damn, this team means business. Recent years, Georgia has been doing that. One year, Georgia played Oregon in a neutral field at Atlanta, and they crushed Oregon. And I think the following year they played Clemson, and they also crushed Clemson. Yeah, I think now Georgia is like the new king of the SEC. After Nick Saban retired, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs are now the new kings of the SEC. And here's the thing, Kirby Smart used to be with Coach Saban and Steve Sarkisian, the Texas head coach. And look, their programs have become a success ever since they left Alabama. So, yeah. So I watched that game, and fans, they stormed on the field. And, man, yeah. Remember, last year, Florida State only had 2 wins. We were like, what the heck happened to Florida State? Is Florida State back? Are they going to be ranked in the top 25 now? I guess they are, because they just beat the number 8 team in the country. Will Alabama still be in the top 25? I think they will. But they might be number 25. When was the last time Alabama was out of the top 25? Was it before Nick Saban became the head coach? Was it Saban's first season or so? Because they got really good really quick too, So, woo. Yeah, wow. Okay. Oh, another one who's an MVP? The reporter, Katie George. Yes, she's the sideline reporter. She would interview the winning team after the game. She was also at the United States Open. Yeah, I was like, what? She's there? I've always liked her, and I always like the way she dresses up too. And I'm like, okay, I assume Katie is gonna, you know, leave New York to be at one of the big college football games, and she was there. She was at the Alabama Florida State game, and then she flew back to New York for the United States Open because I saw her interviewing the players. Oh my gosh, we got another MVP of ESPN. So, yeah, shout out to her and Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit and Joe Tessitore because he's also an MVP. Especially if he still is the Friday Night SmackDown announcer. But the game that I'm looking forward to the most was the primetime game. The Tiger Bowl. How about them Tigers? LSU Tigers against the Clemson Tigers. The game that Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit called. This was the game that I was looking forward to. Because, it's Tigers against Tigers. And I'm from South Louisiana. That's the team to watch. That's the team that a lot of people watch, LSU. And I have some friends that went to LSU, even though they never played any sports. I'm gonna see them this weekend, so I'm probably gonna mention that. Hey guys, did you see that big LSU game? Yeah, this was the game that I was looking forward to the most, and I wasn't sure which team would win. Okay, this game was also not at a neutral site. This was at Clemson, South Carolina, the original Death Valley. Yeah, for whatever reason, LSU, they stole the name Death Valley, and you see it at their stadium, Tiger Stadium at LSU. But Clemson is the original Death Valley. And man, before the game started, they had like a big special pregame show where they would introduce both teams. Like you saw the Clemson buses, and then players get off the bus, and then they run to the stadium, and then you have that big steep hill. They would run down that steep hill. That's their tradition. I like that. Yeah, Dabo Swinney, he's probably like one of the last OG coaches, or one of the last original old school coaches, because he's been around for a long time too. So, yeah, and let me tell you, whenever LSU plays a home game against a big SEC team, the crowd is so loud. But in Clemson, their crowd is also loud. I wasn't really sure which team would win. I guess I was sort of leaning towards Clemson because they're the home team, and it's so hard to beat Clemson at Clemson. And the question that I asked to myself was, can Brian Kelly, the LSU head coach, can he finally win the big game, the first big game? Because he became the LSU head coach. His first season was in 2022. He lost the first 3 opening games. Okay? He really should have, he really could have won the first game against Florida State in 2022. That first game, they lost by 1 point. The following year, they had a rematch, and they got crushed. Then last year, they lost to USC. And those games are at neutral sites. This game against Clemson was not at a neutral site. So I was like, maybe Clemson's going to win. But I wanted LSU to win for obvious reasons. The thing is, they're not my favorite team. But I wish them well. I'm not a hater, but I'm not like an LSU football lover, you know. I technically don't have a college football team, but I guess it would have to be LSU because I live in the capital city. The thing is, I never went to LSU. I never went to their stadium. However, when I started watching college football games, I kind of did become a LSU fan because I was rooting for them. The reason why I'm not a big LSU fan now is because I realized that they have like the most obnoxious fans. A lot of their fans are drunk. They're crazy, you know? And I'm just like, okay, what is wrong with these fans? I'm not saying all the fans are like that, but a lot of them are. They also get spoiled too. I've went to some. Actually, I'll talk about that later. So, but yeah, I was rooting for them. But I've always liked Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. I was rooting for Clemson when they were in those national championship games against Alabama. But when they were playing against LSU in that national championship game in 2020, obviously I was rooting for LSU. Joe Burrow against Trevor Lawrence. You know, that was the last time LSU and Clemson met. And I remember before that, it was they had a bowl game on New Year's Eve 2012. This was like right before I got into sports. I was at a New Year's party, actually, believe it or not. And it was the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. New Year's Eve 2012. LSU against Clemson. And the game ended. And there was this LSU fan at this New Year's Eve party at someone's house. He was like yelling. He got pissed off because LSU lost. He was yelling and his father was like, he was telling him to get the F out of the house, you know? So, I'm telling you, some sports fans can get out of control, man, when their favorite team loses. I get it. Yeah, it sucks to lose, but come on, man, you know? But yeah, it seems like whenever LSU and Clemson meet up, it's a huge matchup, and it's always a great game. And this game was also a great game. Low scoring. It was also low scoring. Not as low scoring as the Ohio State-Texas game, but it was still a pretty low scoring defensive game here. All right. Not much happened in the first quarter. Second quarter, both teams got a field goal. Clemson got a touchdown to make it 10-3. And the second half, it was pretty much all LSU. Yeah, Clemson did not get any more points. LSU got 2 more touchdowns to make it 17-10 final. And I thought Clemson would come back and win or tie the game, but they didn't. So I'm happy for Brian Kelly for finally winning that first big game. Here's the thing. People are saying that if LSU doesn't make the playoff, they're probably going to fire him. I hope they don't fire him. I've always liked him. I remember when he was the Notre Dame coach, and somehow Notre Dame, they went to the championship game without him. Who knows? LSU might be a great team in the SEC. We'll see. Yeah, great win for those Tigers. Tigers beat the Tigers 17-10. So those were the 3 games that I watched. All right. I didn't watch I didn't watch a late night game. I didn't want to. But yeah, while I was watching those three games, I was also watching the United States Open tennis because that's also just as important. I was watching it on, two different TVs, and that's what a lot of people can do that nowadays. You can watch two things or three or four things at once, whether if it's on the same TV or separate TVs. Mine was on separate TVs. And then there was two games on Sunday. I didn't watch either one. Although I was going to watch I was thinking about watching the Notre Dame Miami game, but I decided not to. I decided to just wait for the highlight video. Okay. So there was two games on Sunday. We got one between Virginia Tech against South Carolina, the Aflac kickoff. This is weird. There's two Aflac kickoff games. So does that mean both those games are at the same stadium? I think so. And it might have been Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, there was another Aflac kickoff game between Syracuse and Tennessee, and Tennessee looked really good. They won 45-26. Virginia Tech against South Carolina. I have a friend that is in Virginia Tech. South Carolina, SEC team, ranked number 13. A great team. They won 24-11. And then the Sunday night game was Notre Dame, the runner-up of the national championship last year, against Miami. Number 6 Notre Dame against number 10 Miami. And I missed this game. I was thinking about watching it, but I decided not to. But I watched a highlight video. The announcers were Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy. The game was at Hard Rock Stadium, home to both the Miami Hurricanes and the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. And the Miami Open tennis tournament. Yeah, they also use that stadium too. So, I wasn't sure who was going to win this game, but I was sort of leaning towards Notre Dame, even though they're the visiting team. This game was close. And again, I didn't watch the game, but I watched a highlight video. So that's how this is how I go. If I miss the game, I'll watch the highlight video. But in the CFL, if I miss the game live, I try to watch the late night replay because that's my number one favorite league. But if I miss the late night replay as well, then I'll watch the highlight video. And I've only watched like a couple of CFL highlight videos. That's how much I watch that league, So, excuse me. The game was tight. The game was close. And when Miami got that field goal with 1:04 left, they were winning 27-24. And that's how they won the game. I thought Notre Dame would come back and tie up the game because they had some time left, but they didn't. But when Miami got that field goal, Sean McDonough's voice cracked. He was like, the kick is up and it's good. Dude, Sean McDonough, once in a while, his voice cracks. I also like him. He's also the voice of the NHL on ESPN. Yeah, man. Great announcer. So. And then Monday Night Football with Bill Belichick. He's back on Monday Night Football. Wonderful. You know what's weird? This game's not even listed on the app. Because this is only the top 25 teams. Yes, I did watch the Monday Night Football game between TCU and North Carolina. The only reason why this was on Monday night was because of Bill Belichick. That's the only reason why this game was on Monday night. They wanted everyone to watch this game on Monday night. And I did. I watched that game. It's like this every year during Labor Day weekend. There would always be a college football Monday night game on Labor Day. Because, the NFL season hasn't begun yet. Regular season. All right. So, I put a comment on their highlight video, and I put, Bill Belichick is back on Monday Night Football without the Mannings, the Manning brothers. Yeah, because last year he wasn't coaching. He was with Peyton and Eli Manning for Monday Night Football. The Monday Night Football games with Peyton and Eli, during the first half of the game, Bill Belichick was on with them. And I liked that. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed him with the Manning brothers. It's like I kind of wish he's still on there, That's how great this man, football is his blood. Football is Bill Belichick's blood. Seriously. Just like Nick Saban, football is also his blood. That's why they had, so many success over the past 20 plus years. So, but this was Bill's college head coach debut. After all these years and decades with the NFL, he goes to college. He goes to coach a college team in North Carolina. Isn't that strange? The man who took over Mac Brown. And I saw a video on Fox Big Noon Kickoff. Urban Meyer was asking Mac Brown, what is Bill Belichick thinking? Replacing you, It's like, oh, that's a good question. But yeah, that was like one of the most random news in sports. Bill Belichick becoming the new head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. An old man replacing another old man's coaching job. It's very strange. But before this game started, I was like, you know what? I think more people are going to watch North Carolina football only because of Bill Belichick. We want to see how he does. He's won 6 Super Bowls. Which is a astonishing accomplishment. Winning 6 Super Bowls. That might not ever happen again for a head coach. Winning 6 Super Bowls. So, yeah. Pretty much everyone was watching this game, including myself, because I'm curious to know how would they do. This is it. His first game as a college head coach, So I was watching the pregame show. They had Nick Saban on. It was cool to see him talk about his friend Bill Belichick, Yeah. The announcers were Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit. Yeah, Kirk called another game. The reason why Reese Davis was the announcer is because Chris Fowler went back to New York for the U.S. Open. And the reason why Reese Davis wasn't the pregame host is because he's the commentator for the game itself. So Matt Berry took over. Oh yeah, speaking of Matt Berry, usually late Saturday or early Sunday, I would watch college football final, which is basically the highlight show of, college football, them breaking down the big games and stuff like that. So I've always enjoyed that. But years ago, they had Jesse Palmer. Oh, excuse that noise. That's the ice maker. But yeah, I remember the old version of college football final when Reese Davis was the host. Okay? Reese Davis was the host. And I think this was before. Yeah. This was before he took over as the host of College GameDay. So, before he became the permanent host of College GameDay, he would become the host of College Football Final with Lou Holtz, the son of Skip Holtz. Skip Holtz is the Birmingham Stallions head coach of the UFL. And I remember watching their final couple of years on that. It was totally different. And then that was when, 2015, that was like we went from one era to another. Because 2015 was also the first year where they introduced the college football playoff format, the 4 teams. Before that, it was just 2 teams, the BCS National Championship game. All right. So, yeah. So, my favorite was when they had Adnan Virk. Adnan Virk used to be the college football final host, but then he got fired. He got fired on ESPN for leaking information. I forgot when this was. I want to say this was back in I think it was before the COVID year. But after he got fired, Matt Berry took over, and the 2 guys with him were Joey Galloway and Jesse Palmer. Then fast forward a couple years, Jesse Palmer left to go back to the booth. Okay? And then the guy who replaced him was Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen used to be the Florida Gators head coach, and then he somehow got fired, and he wasn't coaching for a couple of seasons, so he became the analyst on that show. And now he's no longer on that show. So I was like, wait, what happened to Dan Mullen? He left. He's now the head coach of the University of Las Vegas. Dan Mullen is now the head coach of UNLV. And I didn't know that until I looked him up, because I was like, wait, what happened to Dan Mullen? He's no longer on that show. So the guy who replaced him, I think his name is E.J. Manuel? Yeah, E.J. Manuel. And they're in a new studio. And I understand why they're in a new studio, because this is really a new era. 2025, this is a new era. New graphics, new score bug, I get that. But I miss when they were in the previous studio. I like the previous studio. Yeah, so I don't know. I did watch the show. I was entertained. But man, I wish Dan Mullen was on there, because I liked him on there, Although, when he replaced Jesse Palmer, I got a little disappointed that Jesse Palmer is no longer on the show. Now I'm a little disappointed that Dan Mullen isn't on the show. It's kind of funny how when a change is made, you don't really like it at first, but then you get used to it over the years until they make another change. Well, now they're in a new studio. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is, so. But that's a good show. Anyways, back to the Monday Night Football game between TCU and North Carolina. Yep. I think TCU was the favorite to win, I think, but not by much. I wanted North Carolina to win because of Bill Belichick. I wanted him to do well. I'm sure a lot of people wanted him to succeed. And when they scored the touchdown on their opening drive, I'm like, uh-oh, this team might win. Nope. After that, it was pretty much all TCU. Yeah. I didn't thought TCU would win by 34 points. They won 48 to, what was it? They won by 34 points, so they won by 48 to 14. Oh my gosh. TCU scored a whole bunch of unanswered points after North Carolina's first opening touchdown drive. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So I was like, uh-oh. What are people going to say about Bill Belichick after that loss? It's not like he lost by 1 point. He lost by 34. Hey, I hope they get better. I hope they get better. Um, my uncle messaged me, and this is pretty much every time we message each other, it's always about college football. Basically, that means he's a big college football fan. Um, so I started messaging him on Saturday because hey, the season's back, week one. Um, he messaged me and I didn't see it. He messaged me before the game, but I didn't see his message until after the game. But basically, what he said was, after that first drive, I thought North Carolina would crush them. Boy, I was wrong. TCU did look good after that. They may have a good team. I'm glad you got to see the game. By the way, I am picking LSU Saturday. I'll talk about that a little later. Um, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. People are going to talk about this today because now that Labor Day weekend is over, I think the first thing they're going to talk about today is Bill Belichick. In my opinion, listen, week one was a crazy weekend. Labor Day weekend, crazy week one. To me, the biggest story is on what happened on that Monday Night Football game. Bill Belichick. Yeah. But yeah, people are also going to talk about the Florida State beating Alabama, LSU's big win against Clemson, and Ohio State deserving the number one spot, number one team. So, yeah, a lot of football talk. There's going to be a lot of football talk this week, not only because of Labor Day weekend, but it's also because the NFL regular season is starting this Thursday night between the Dallas Cowboys without Micah Parsons against the defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Will I watch that game? I might if I have a chance, but I'm not excited for that matchup. The Sunday night game is more of an exciting matchup to me because it's the Baltimore Ravens against the Buffalo Bills. All right. So I'll do another episode on Friday of me talking about week 1 of the National Football League and stuff like that. But this episode is mainly me recapping college football week 1. And oh my gosh, I have even more football to talk about. Because I'm now going to talk about the CFL. Woohoo! We got more football to talk about. Canadian football. We got a game on. There was no games on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Yeah. We had a Sunday night game. The last Sunday night game, because next Sunday night, or this upcoming Sunday night, is the first Sunday night NFL game of the season. So this Sunday night game was the biggest CFL Week 13 matchup between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, the best CFL team. Yes. So 5-tear, if you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure you are. This was a big matchup for your team. And I actually didn't see this game live. I was going to watch it live, but something happened and I missed the game. But I checked to see if they had the late night replay on, and they had it on. However, I missed the first half. I missed the first half of the late night replay because I forgot to check what time the late night replay would come on. But apparently they showed that game all night long. So I could have waited, but I didn't. So I only saw the second half. And this game was a really good game. The game was in Saskatchewan. The game was close too. And I have to look at the recap because I kind of forgot exactly what happened, but I do remember the ending, the fourth quarter. It was a close game. So let me see something here. Okay. I'm on TSN.com, basically the Canadian version of ESPN. Yeah, Brady Oliveira, he's a great player for the Blue Bombers. But can you imagine if they had Kenny Lawler, who's on the Hamilton Tiger Cats? What if he was still with the Blue Bombers? Because he is a great player. No wonder why the Tiger Cats are a much better team because of him. Without them, before they had him, the Tiger Cats were not really a good team. So, yeah, Zach Collaros had a great game for the Blue Bombers. The game was close. I did pick Saskatchewan to win because they're the home team and they are the best team. They were winning 31-17 in the fourth quarter. And then the Blue Bombers got a touchdown as they needed one to make it 31-24 with about 4 minutes left. And then, excuse me, while I find this here. And then Saskatchewan originally got a safety because the official did the safety call, which is this, if you're watching the video. So Saskatchewan punted the ball to Winnipeg, and the Blue Bombers player, he touched the ball, and his foot got into the end zone, and they said safety, but instead it's a single. Okay. So instead of 33 to 30, 33 to 24, it's 32 to 24, which is a good thing for the Blue Bombers because if that was really a safety, that means the Rough Riders would be up by 2 scores. This is not the UFL where a 9-point lead is a 1-score game. So with a minute and a half left, the Blue Bombers scored a touchdown, and they needed the extra point, or excuse me, the 2-point conversion to tie up the game. But then Zach Collaros threw a pick six. Yup. On the 2-point conversion, the Rough Riders, they returned the 2-point conversion, and they get the 2-point conversion. And they won 34 to 30. Pretty intense game. And Rod Smith was the announcer. He was saying that their last year's meetup was a very close matchup as well. And these two are going to face each other again this weekend. They're going to call it the Banjo Bowl. The Banjo Bowl is a game between the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers the weekend after Labor Day. And here they are. They're going to have to face each other again, but this time it will be in Winnipeg. And then the two Monday games. First one was the Toronto Argonauts against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Now, as a Montreal Alouettes fan, I was actually sort of rooting for the Argonauts, even though that's their rivals. Only because the Alouettes are in second place behind the Tiger Cats in terms of the standings. Okay. So, this game will be known for the ending. The ending to the game. I wasn't really watching much of this game because I was also watching some tennis, and I was also doing something on my computer as well. But I had both games on. All right. This game, it wasn't really a big matchup for me. The Alouettes were not playing this week. So I missed the first quarter, and I kind of missed some of the second quarter as well. Because I kind of slept in. Yeah, I wanted to get more sleep, and I also needed more sleep. Oh man, speaking of sleep, I need to sleep very soon. This episode is already an hour and a half. This might be another 2-hour episode after all, because I also have to talk about the United States Open tennis after this. This game was close. It's kind of a weird score. Toronto was winning 15-13 at halftime. All right, then Hamilton got a touchdown to make it 20-15. Toronto got a field goal to make it 20-18 after the third quarter. The fourth quarter, a lot has happened. A lot of scoring in the fourth quarter. Bo Levi Mitchell, he's a pretty good quarterback for the Tiger Cats. Well-known quarterback in the CFL. Got a touchdown to make it 27-18. Argonauts, Nick Arbuckle had a pretty good game as well. Got a touchdown to make it 27-25. Under 7.5 minutes to go. Then the Argonauts took the lead to make it 32-27 under the 2-minute warning. And then the Tiger Cats, with 22 seconds, Bo Levi Mitchell completed a pass to Kenny Lawler to take the lead. And they were going to go for the 2-point conversion to make it 35-32, but they failed. So it was 33-32. And the ending was something. How do I explain this ending? I forgot the name of the Argonauts player that made that amazing catch. But basically, when he made that catch, that was actually, believe it or not, if you were watching SportsCenter, the American version, after Scott Van Pelt, they would do that top 10 plays. That was the number one play. Let's go! CFL! The number one play on the American SportsCenter top 10 was from that amazing catch in the CFL. Oh my gosh. I know. And here's the thing. CFL games used to be on ESPN networks. You know, I kind of wish it's still on there because TSN is really the Canadian version of ESPN. They have their own SportsCenter version. But it's weird that the games are on CBS Sports Network, you know. So I was like, wow, that was actually the number one SportsCenter top play. So this Argonauts player, I forgot his name, he made this amazing catch. And he was, oh my gosh, it's hard to explain because I'm watching this video as I speak. A great catch, amazing catch, and he somehow attempts to go all the way to the end zone with no time left. When I saw that live, I was like, get out of bounds, because they didn't need a touchdown. They needed a field goal to win the game. All he had to do was to get out of bounds. There was like 5 seconds left. Then he went to the end zone. And when he went to the end zone, I'm like, okay, you better get that touchdown. I hope he got that touchdown. But he actually stepped out of bounds with 1 second left. OMG. And then, somehow, someway, the Argonauts kicked the game-winning field goal, and they won 35-33. Wow. If there were 0 seconds on the clock when that Argo player stepped out of bounds, the Tiger Cats would have won. What a weird ending. And the thing is, he didn't have to go to the end zone. All he had to do was step out of bounds. I was like, get out of bounds. You just need a field goal to win the game. And it turns out they did get a field goal anyways. But man, oh man, I don't remember seeing an ending like that. You know? Wow. Amazing. I know, right? So, yeah, unbelievable. And then the second game, I forget, did I pick the Argonauts or the Tiger Cats to win? I might have picked the Argonauts. I think I thought to myself, maybe somehow the Argonauts can keep their season alive. But anyways, I know this next game, I know who I picked in this next game between the Edmonton Elks and the Calgary Stampeders. I picked the Stampeders to win this game. The game was in Calgary. The announcers, Dustin Nielsen and Dwayne Ford. This game came on, I think, at 5 o'clock Central, so I was able to watch this game here. As well as the United States Open. Vernon Adams Jr. had a great game for the Stampeders. And it was pretty much Calgary Stampeders. Okay? There's not much to talk about this game, but this is a weird score. Listen to this. Second quarter, 10-3 Calgary. Then the Elks got a single with 19 seconds. And then somehow the Stampeders got a field goal at halftime to make it 13-4. Then the Elks got a field goal to make it 13-7. So you think the Elks got a touchdown because touchdown is worth 6 points. Then you kick an extra point to make it 7 points. But no, instead the Elks got 2 field goals and a single. That's how they got those 7 points. And then the Stampeders got 2 more touchdowns. And they won 28-7. They look like a great team. Yeah, they look like a great team. The team that beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders twice, right? Let me make sure. I know for sure they beat them in Regina. And they beat them again. Yeah, the only team that beat the Roughriders twice. The Roughriders' 2 losses were against the Stampeders. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So now, look at the standings here. After Week 13, the East Division, the Tiger Cats, 6-5. My favorite team, Montreal Alouettes, 5-6. And I'm glad that the Tiger Cats lost, because otherwise it would have been 7-5. Okay? Or excuse me, 7-4. Instead, 6-5. Alouettes 5-6. Toronto Argonauts 4-8. Ottawa Redblacks 3-8. West Division, Saskatchewan Roughriders, they're still the best team, 9-2. Calgary Stampeders 8-3. They're right behind them. Winnipeg Blue Bombers 6-5. BC Lions 5-6, and Edmonton Elks 4-7. So yeah, no more Thursday night CFL games because we're now going to have Thursday night NFL games, and no more Sunday night games in the CFL because we're also going to be having Sunday night NFL games. So now we're just going to have Friday and Saturday games. Yeah, we're going to have a triple header on Saturday. Okay. I will preview those games and give you my predictions in the next episode. My gosh, after talking for nearly 1 hour and 44 minutes, I have to talk about the U.S. Open tennis. I'm sorry this episode's so long. I didn't thought this episode would be this long. I guess it's going to be another 2-hour episode. It might as well be another 2-hour episode. But it's Labor Day weekend. Labor Day weekend will go down as like the biggest weekend in the sports calendar. So much football, so much tennis. What about baseball? I think a lot of people didn't watch baseball much. The MLB, they probably didn't watch much. Unless if you're a big MLB fan, and if that's like one of the only sports leagues that you really watch, then yeah, you were probably watching that. But a lot of people watch football. American football is America's favorite sport. Whether if it's college or the NFL, you know? So. Okay, now to the U.S. Open. I try to watch some matches along with the football games. Okay. Oh, here's the thing. When the TCU North Carolina game came on, um, the CFL game was still going on. So I tuned out of tennis to tune into the college Monday night game. I was watching two football games at the same time. And then after the CFL game ended, I tuned back into tennis. Okay? So, let's start the men's singles. Let's go back to the third round Friday. Just to skim through here. Francis Tiafoe lost in straight sets in the third round. That was surprising. The American player that people are hoping for, he would go far deep into the tournament. Same with Ben Shelton. He lost in 4 sets. However, it was tied 2 sets apiece. This match was going to a 5th set, but Ben Shelton said that he couldn't continue. Unfortunately for him, he had an injury and he had to retire. Remember, retire means when a player cannot continue in a match. So that was a shame. I thought he would go far into the tournament. Number 6 seeded player. Yeah. Let's stay on the men's singles side. Saturday. Tommy Paul's match ended super late again. Except this time he lost. Listen to the score. He lost 6-7, tiebreaker 5-7. He won the second set 7-6, tiebreaker 7-4. Lost the third set 6-3 or 3-6. Won the fourth set 7-6, tiebreaker 7-5, and he got crushed in the fifth set 1-6. This match ended after 1 a.m. New York time. Yeah. Let me tell you, on that Saturday, you can watch tennis and college football for more than 12 hours. It's crazy. You can watch all day, all night, all evening. The first match that came on that Saturday was the Yannick Sinner against Denis Shapovalov. I like Shapovalov. He's left-handed like me. He won the first set 7-5, but then Sinner won the next 3 sets. All right. And how about that Saturday first prime time game matchup? Number 3 seeded player Alexander Zverev lost to number 25 seeded player Canadian Felix Auger-Aliassime. And you know I like watching TSN Sports Center, so they're obviously going to talk about the Canadian players on there. Sasha Zverev won the first set 6-4, but then Felix Auger-Aliassime won the next 3 sets 7-6, tiebreaker 9-7, 6-4, 6-4. I'm like, OMG, that is a huge win for Felix. The number 3 seeded player, Alexander Zverev, is out. And he's never won a Grand Slam. All right, so that was round 3. Sunday was the beginning of the round of 16. Novak Djokovic looked really good, the number 7 seeded player. Same with Taylor Fritz, who was in the U.S. Open final last year. He looked great as well, number 4 seed. Carlos Alcaraz, or I should say Carlos Balcaraz, because of his new shaved cut. He looked great. You know what? I think the finals is probably going to be Carlos Alcaraz against Yannick Sinner. That's probably going to be the final. They're probably going to have another rematch in the final because they're the two best players and they look unstoppable. Okay, so that was Sunday's matchups. Monday's matchup, Yannick Sinner. Oh my gosh. 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. He might win this thing. I think it's either going to be Sinner or Alcaraz. And if that's the final, then I'll give you my prediction. Oh, man, it's crazy. Lorenzo Musetti, the player who won the bronze medal, looked really good. Another Italian player. Felix Auger-Aliassime won his match in straight sets against Andrei Rublev. Nothing was going right for Rublev. And Felix is into the quarterfinals. I heard on the TSN Sports Center, this was Felix's first match on Arthur Ashe Stadium since 2021. Amazing. Alex de Minaur, the Australian player, looked really good as well. Yeah, all these matches were in straight sets. All these men's singles round of 16 matches on Monday were in straight sets. Now let's do the same thing to the women's singles. Let's go back to Friday's matchups. Third round matchups here. I was watching some of the Emma Navarro against Barbara Krejcikova match, but I didn't get to see the end. Emma Navarro won the first set 6-4, but then Barbara Krejcikova won the next two sets 6-4, 6-4. Elena Rybakina looked really great against Emma Raducanu. She won that match easily 6-1, 6-2. Wimbledon champion from 2022. Saturday's matchups. I'm trying to tell you which matchups I watch. I watched some of the Amanda Anisimova match because she's one of my favorites and she's the American. She won her match in 3 sets, 6-4, 4-6, 6-2. This was an interesting matchup. Daria Kasatkina against Naomi Osaka. Osaka won this in 3 sets. 6-love, 4-6, 6-3. Coco Gauff looked really good in her third round match. Karolina Mukova, I did say that I think she might go to the semifinals. She might go far into the tournament, and she's still alive. Okay. Oh, yeah, Saturday was also Holding Court with Patrick McEnroe, although I didn't listen to that episode until Sunday because Saturday was College Football Saturday. I listened to that episode on Sunday. Got to hear what P-Mac had to say. I really like his show because he's like one of the only guys that I listen to that talks about tennis. Him and my favorite show, my number one favorite show, Mad Dog Unleashed with Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Okay. But yeah, a lot of people don't talk about tennis. I know they talk about football up the ass. I understand that. It's America's sport. But, see, this is the problem. I wish the U.S. Open was like a week or two earlier. So that way, they won't have to compete much with football. Mainly the NFL. If this U.S. Open tournament was 2 weeks earlier, then, the tournament would have been over. It would have ended. So I guess the women's singles final is going to be on a college football Saturday, and the men's singles final is also going to be on a NFL Sunday. They're going to be doing this again. Okay. Well, I'll talk more about that in the next episode. Okay, so back to okay, so Sunday's women's singles was the round of 16. Somehow Alina Rybakina lost to Vondrousova, who's also a Wimbledon champion from 2023. Arina Sabalenka looked really good, the number one seeded player, one of the favorites to win the tournament. And, wow. How about this matchup? I didn't get to see this matchup. Barbora Krejcikova against Taylor Townsend. Krejcikova won in 3 sets. Townsend won the first set 6-1. Krejcikova won the second set 7-6. The tiebreaker was 15-13. I didn't know that. And then she also won the third set 6-3. Wow. And you know what? Even if I miss some of these matches, I would always like to listen to the players' press conferences. Yeah, I enjoyed listening to those on their YouTube channel. Jessica Pegula looked really good. I hope she wins. I really hope she wins the U.S. Open. Because she was in the runner-up last year. I hope she wins it. Do it for New York. All right. And then Monday's matchup. This matchup, Naomi Osaka against Coco Gauff. That was a big matchup. And somehow that matchup was not prime time. How is that not a prime time matchup? This was a day match, and I missed it. I would have totally watched that match if that was prime time, but it wasn't. However, Osaka won 6-3, 6-2. When I tuned in right after that match ended. I was like, I thought the match would still be going, but no, it ended really quick, and just like a little over an hour, Osaka won 6-3, 6-2. So the primetime match, I did watch Amanda Anisimova. She looked really good. She won her match 6-love, 6-3. Iga Swiatek, my pick to win the U.S. Open this year, she looked really good out there, and she's going to be facing Amanda Anisimova in the quarterfinals from the Wimbledon final rematch, their second meetup in the main tour. They're meeting up again. All right. So now I'm caught up. Today, September the 2nd, Tuesday, we are now in the quarterfinals, which means all the matches are on Arthur Ashe Stadium. Less matches, meaning not many of the matches are on at the same time. Oh, before I get into that, in women's doubles, the big story is Venus Williams, 45-year-old Venus Williams, and how old is Leylah Fernandez? 22, I think, or 23? She's younger than me by like a year or two. Yeah. Venus Williams and Leylah Fernandez, they're still alive. They're still in women's doubles. I was sort of watching their match on Monday and Saturday as well. I will be rooting for them to go all the way. I'm sure a lot of people are. Yeah. And their post-match interview and their press conferences, they're pretty funny to listen to. So, it's like, oh my goodness, Venus Williams still looking like she's in her prime or something like that. So I'm happy for them. Let's see, women's doubles. I don't really watch doubles, but I'm happy for them. So let's see here. They won their match on Monday. Do they have to play again today? They do, and uh-oh, they have to take on the number one team. Taylor Townsend, who had a great singles run in the U.S. Open. Her partner is Siniakova from the Czech Republic. I remember her. She's one of the best doubles players on the women's side. They are number one for a reason. Oh, boy. Oh, man, I'm going to miss that match, too, because it's at 3 o'clock. Dang it. Man, I was hoping that match can be prime time. Dang it, I'm going to miss that match. Dang it, I wish that match was on prime time. I would totally watch that match. It's on Louis Armstrong Stadium. Why isn't that match on prime time? Because I know the singles matches are now all are on Arthur Ashe Stadium. Is it because, do we have men's doubles? That might be why. I don't know. Because I have work. That's why. It's at 3 o'clock. I usually get out of work at after around 4. So if I come home ASAP, maybe the match would still be going. If I do remember if that match is happening, but dang. Okay, well, yeah. I'll be rooting for them, though. Okay, so in women's singles today, we have the quarterfinals, Jessica Pegula against Barbora Krejcikova. I wish that's the primetime matchup, but it's not. Instead, the primetime matchup is Aryna Sabalenka against Marketa Vondrousova, and I guess it's because Sabalenka is the number one seeded player. But to me, the bigger matchup is Pegula against Krejcikova. I'm going to miss that match as well. Because I don't have YouTube TV. I don't have it anymore. I don't have ESPN Plus anymore. I don't have the new ESPN app. So my only hope is to not get spoiled and somehow watch the late night replay. And that's always hard, not to get spoiled. And then Wednesday, tomorrow, we have Amanda Anisimova against Iga Swiatek, which I hope that is the primetime matchup. And the other matchup is Karolina Mukova and Naomi Osaka. They haven't announced the times yet. For those matches. But I'm hoping the Anisimova and Swiatek matches will be prime time, so I can totally watch that match. That has to be prime time because it's number 2 against number 8, and an American player is in it, you know? But somehow it might not be. Now to the men's singles today. We have Carlos Alcaraz playing in a day matchup. I'm going to miss that matchup, but I expect him to win that match anyways. Tonight's matchup will be very interesting. Novak Djokovic, number 7 seeded against number 4 seeded Taylor Fritz. That is tonight. I will watch that match. And they said they played each other 10 times, and Novak has won all 10 times. Will Taylor Fritz finally beat Novak? I think he has a chance. But here's the problem. The winner of this match will most likely be facing Carlos Alcaraz in the semifinals. That won't be easy. whoever wins that match between Novak and Taylor Fritz. Because I think Carlos is going to reach the final. So, yeah. Part of me wants Novak to win because he's 38. I want to see him win one more Grand Slam. And this could be the one. But on the other side, you have Yannick Sinner, who I really think he's going to reach the final. He's playing tomorrow against the Italian Lorenzo Musetti. I assume that's going to be the night match because it's the number one seeded player, Italian player taking on another Italian player who won the bronze medal in last year's Summer Olympics. And the other matchup, Felix Auger-Aliassime against Alex de Minaur. I'm going to be rooting for Felix because he's Canadian and I watch the Canadian Sports Center. So, but I think that's going to be the day matchup, Felix against Alex. I'm hoping that's I hope that's the night match because that's the bigger matchup to me because I think Sinner might win in straight sets again. The Felix and Alex match, that could go either way. So yeah. On the women's side, I'll be rooting for Jessica and Amanda, the American players. The men's singles, the winner between Taylor Fritz and Novak Djokovic, I'll be rooting for that player to go all the way. Part of me wants Novak to win because he's 38 and I know he wants to go for one more Grand Slam win. And I hope he gets it. But if Taylor Fritz finally beats him, I'll be rooting for Taylor to go all the way. But I think the winner of this match will most likely lose against Carlos Alcaraz in the semifinals. So there you go, guys. I can't believe this episode is longer than the last episode. And there's also one more thing I want to talk about, and that is a quick look at the MLB standings. Okay. Labor Day weekend was a big weekend for sports. For me, it was mainly football, college football, and CFL, and of course, the U.S. Open. That's why I was watching two things at once. But then you got the MLB season. We're less than a month away from the regular season coming to an end. Were a lot of people watching the MLB on Labor Day weekend? Mainly Saturday? I don't think so. But you had games on Sunday and you got games on Labor Day Monday afternoon. But I didn't watch any MLB games. I couldn't. I mean, I guess I could if I wanted to watch three things at once, but I didn't want to. So let's check the standings for the Major League Baseball season. We're less than a month away from the regular season being over. We're about a month away from the postseason starting. All right. So let's check the standings here. All right, to the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays are still in first place, 79 wins and 59 losses, followed by the New York Yankees, 2.5 games behind, as well as the Boston Red Sox. They're also 2.5 games behind. American League Central, the Detroit Tigers are in first place with 80 wins and 59 losses, followed by the Kansas City Royals with 9 games behind, Cleveland Guardians 10.5 games behind, Chicago White Sox 50 and 88. In the American League West, the Houston Astros are still in first place, which I'm glad they are because I usually root for that team. 76 wins, 62 losses, followed by the Seattle Mariners. 3 games behind, but the Texas Rangers are right behind the Mariners, 4.5 games behind. In the National League East, the Philadelphia Phillies are in first place still, with 80 wins and 58 losses, followed by the New York Mets, with 6 games behind. The National League Central, the Milwaukee Brewers still have the most wins, 85 and 54, followed by the Chicago Cubs, 5.5 games behind. They're kind of catching up to the Brewers. And then the National League West, the LA Dodgers, 78 wins, 59 losses, followed by the San Diego Padres, 2.5 games behind. The San Francisco Giants are average 500, 69 and 69, with 9.5 games behind. Colorado Rockies, 39 wins and 99 losses. And they already put the little E next to their logo. The little E means they're eliminated. 39 and 99. But you know what? It looks like they're not going to break the record. They might not break the record for the most losses in modern baseball history. Last year, the Chicago White Sox broke that record. The Rockies, they might not break that record after all. So let's see here. Oops, before I wrap this up here. Oh, wow. The Texas Rangers have won their last 6 games. They won 9 out of their last 10 games. That's why they're right behind the Seattle Mariners. The Chicago Cubs, they've won 6 out of their last 10 games. They're sort of catching up to the Brewers. And that's basically it. So I expect, the Phillies, Brewers, Dodgers, I think they're going to make the playoffs as the winning division. So 12 teams make the postseason. So you got the 3 division winners. Okay. And then you have the 3 wild card teams. So I think the 3 wild card teams will be the Mets, Cubs, and Padres. And then the American League, I think the 3 wild card teams are going to be the Yankees, Red Sox, and either the Mariners or the Rangers. The Detroit Tigers, I think they're safe. They're 9 games ahead. So yeah. But hey, a lot can still change in terms of the standings for the next couple of weeks. It's unfortunate for the MLB. By the time their season gets really interesting, that's when college football and the National Football League season begins. So that's unfortunate for them. But I always look forward to the MLB postseason. And now I'm done, folks. Holy crap. 2 hours. Over 2 hours. More than the last episode. Oh, I gotta go. So, I should be back on Friday. Hopefully. Even though it's already Tuesday. So I guess I'll see you guys in 3 days. if you really listened to this whole episode, thank you so much. I know this is unusual, over 2 hours. There's just so much to talk about, So thank y'all very much. And outro music. The former intro music, you get to hear this as the outro music. So yeah, folks, we're going to watch that Thursday night football game. NFL, enjoy that. See you on Friday, hopefully. Peace out. Thank you for listening to Keith Sports News.